Hello curious people. Today I am going to give you a tutorial on how to set up a remote development environment on your local machine. This entire setup can be replicated easily on your local or on a cloud platform, so you can understand it quite easily. The primary requirement for this is Oracle VirtualBox. Let's go and download it. Search for that on Google and go to the first link. Click on the big download VirtualBox button. Depending on your platform, you have to download the relevant one. I'm on a Windows 10 operating system, so I will click on the Windows hosts button. It will download an exe file. See, as you can see, it's 105 megabytes. I'll click on start download. It's done. Now let's click on open. If you are not using any download manager, go to your file manager, click on downloads and go to the downloads folder and open the setup file. When it's asking for permission, click S. It's asking whether you want to install VirtualBox or not. Go to next, 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 next. It's just that simple. Oracle VirtualBox is an open source tool, so you don't have to worry about any spyware. In case you don't know anything about VirtualBox or virtual machine, don't worry, I'm going to tell you that. Basically, what a VirtualBox is, when you are using an operating system, you have to need a physical machine, a computer, a monitor, a keyboard, mouse, CPU, graphic card, all that. But what this software particularly does is, it will virtualize everything. That is, it will take the resources from your main system and it will give the OS that is running inside this machine such that the OS thinks it is a real machine. Let's open this. Yeah guys, as I told you, virtual machines are a little easy to understand with this diagram. As you can see, in a normal system you have physical hardware like CPU, GPU, RAM, and then you install an operating system which installs its kernel and drivers. Then you install all the applications that you need like PowerPoint, Chrome, VirtualBox, all stuff. Then you work on it and save the files like PPT files, MP4 files, all that. This is your normal PC. For example, currently my PC itself is this example. Now when you want to use another operating system but you don't have an extra physical hardware like an extra laptop or spare PC, what we can do is we just install an application called VirtualBox, which is an open source one. There are other alternatives also for this VirtualBox. What this VirtualBox essentially do is it creates a virtual machine. As you can see in the name itself, it's called virtual. That means it is not physical, it is simulated using the physical. So in the same example as the left one, we have a physical hardware, that is my PC, and we have an operating system, that is my Windows 10, which is called host because it is hosting the virtual machine. And we have other user applications like Chrome, Firefox, Adobe, all that. What we do is we install an application like VirtualBox and then we install an operating system on top of it. Remember, using a virtual machine is a bit costlier compared to latest technologies like Docker and Kubernetes, but for a basic understanding and remote development, this is more than enough. If you understand this concept of virtual machines, you can understand that using a single physical machine to create multiple virtual operating systems is far efficient than installing single operating system on a single machine. That's how servers are used in cloud, where you can rent a virtual machine for a fraction of cost for a physical server. So now, if you understood this, let's go and install Ubuntu in our VirtualBox. See, this is a VirtualBox interface. All you have to do is create a new one. What we do is we actually give part of our system resources. So let's go to task manager and see the details. As you can see, it's showing I have 2 cores and 4 logical processors. That means I can give 2 logical processors of my PC to the guest OS, and I have 16 gigabytes of RAM. That means I can give at least 8 gigabytes. And I have 2 hard disks, but it doesn't matter that much because the virtual one doesn't need that much of a hard disk space. So let's go and create one. As you can see, the interface changes depending on the version, but these basics don't change that much. So it's asking a name for our PC, so I will just give a random name of Ubuntu 22 server, and that's the name of our virtual machine. And it's asking the folder where to save our virtual machine. I'm going to save it in a different folder. Click on the drop down menu and click on the other. Okay, click on the drop down menu and click on other. Go to the location where you want to save your I'm creating a folder called virtual machines, so that whenever I need to clone or copy or delete, I can just delete this entire folder. It's a bit clean. And it's asking an ISO image. What this basically means is the ISO image or the operating system image that we are going to install for this virtual machine. Currently I don't have one, so I'll just go and download one. What we have to do is we want to install Ubuntu, so just search Ubuntu 22 server. When you search for that in Google, you'll get this download, and go to the ubuntu.com and it's showing get Ubuntu server. Click on it. It's asking for cookies and stuff, accept them. As you can see, it's saying get Ubuntu server, and the latest version as of recording in 2022 December is Ubuntu 22.04.1. Always make sure to download LTS versions, because once you install this, you can at least have it in support for 5 years. What happens with the latest versions are 22.10 is the latest version, released in around October, but it will only be supported until next year 6 months. So these are good for latest features, but this is good for production and servers. So I will download the LTS version. Click on it. It will show you that it's going to be downloaded shortly. It will be around 1.5 gigabytes. See, 1.37 gigabytes. Make sure to download it. I'm gonna hit download. My internet speed around is 30 megabytes, so I'm gonna be downloading it in 1 minute. As you can see, the download is going fast. Depending on your internet speed, this may take a bit long, but just wait for it. As you can see, the download is about done. So now let's go to the downloads folder where it is downloaded and save it in a file that we can identify. I'm gonna go to open folder. As you can see, it's in the download folder. I'm just going to cut that and paste it in my softwares folder. Doesn't matter where you can save it, it's up to you. I'm just going to paste it somewhere. All I have to understand is copy the path and paste it in the ISO images. Click on other. It will open that folder and select the ISO file we downloaded. That's it. And it's saying detected Ubuntu 64, so it can be installed unattendedly. That means it will select all the default ones to install easily, which may be a better one. It was introduced in the latest Oracle VirtualBox 7, but I would prefer to install manually to configure some stuff. As you can see, it is asking the information to actually install automatically, which is a good thing, but I don't want it. So here I'm gonna click on skip unattended install and go to next, and it is asking the hardware. As I said, a VirtualBox uses physical hardware and virtualize it. See the section here called virtual hardware. We are going to give our actual hardware to the virtual machine. So it's asking how much. As you can see, I got 16 gigs of RAM. Depending on your use case, you can give 8 gigs or 1 gig. It's recommended to always stay in the green line of this indication. So what it is saying is, since I have 16 gigabytes RAM in my actual PC and Windows is using roughly 5.3 gigs, I can safely give 10 gigs. But it's always recommended to stay way in the green line, so I prefer to give 8 gigs. 8 gigs is 8196 MB, and that's good. The simple metric is, the more hardware you give to the virtual machines, the faster it will run, but the slower your actual machine will. So it's a balance where you need to find it for your system. And I have 4 virtual CPUs and I can give 2, but it may bit slow my actual system. It's not a big deal for me currently. You can reduce all these after creating the virtual machine also. Click on next, and it's asking the virtual hard disk. As I said, you need a hard disk for the operating system. So it's asking, you can either create a new hard disk or select an existing one. Since we are starting it from scratch, we are creating a new one. Or if you already have a previous virtual machine, you can use an existing hard drive and select that file. It's recommended to give at least 50 gigabytes or 60 gigabytes for the Linux operating systems and 100 gigabytes or 150 gigabytes for Windows virtual machines. I'm going to give it 60 gigabytes. It's showing 2 terabytes, but I actually only have 1 terabyte of SSDs. That's a glitch in the VirtualBox, I think, but it shouldn't matter. As I gave 60 gigabytes, it doesn't occupy 60 gigabytes in the VirtualBox folder. As you can see, in this folder there is nothing, but when you give 60 gigabytes, it doesn't occupy that folder as 60 gigabytes. It will only occupy as much as needed, but the maximum is 60 gigabytes. As you can see, pre-allocate. When you click this, entire 60 gigabytes is created, but it will take up a lot of time to set it up. My preference is just click everything default and go next. So what happens is, as your virtual machine storage increases, the storage on your actual PC in this folder increases to the max of 60 gigabytes. Now review all the settings and click on finish. As you can see, the server is finished. Now you can go in and configure extra settings that are not shown before. Click on select the virtual machine and go to settings. As you can see, there are multiple settings where you can check for many things. The one thing that I have to check is display, and as you can see, display is the graphic card, but it doesn't use the actual GPU. It uses the rendering engine. So you can give all of the rendering engine, because the more virtual memory you give for the VM, the faster it runs. And the next thing is enable 3D acceleration. This will give our VM some nice UIs and things, but since it is a server, I don't think we need it. For Windows machines, without this you don't get good animations, or at least the UI looks clunky without this. And going to the storage, as you can see, we are using the ISO we downloaded, and we gave the storage as the path. In this path there is a .vdi file created. As you can see here, there is a VDI file created, and you see it's 2 MB. We gave it 60 MB, and you can read this here. The virtual size we gave is 60 gigabytes, but currently it's only using 2 megabytes, and the detail is dynamically allocated, which means the more that we use our virtual machine, the more the actual size will grow to the max of 60 gigabytes. Now the next thing is audio. You can give audio input and output for the virtual machine and the network. This is the major part. To access your virtual machine in your host machine or in your network, click on the attach it to section and go to bridged adapter. What it will does is, it will give internet access to the virtual machine and makes it look like a physical machine in your home network. That means you can access this virtual machine with an IP. And the serial ports, USB, shared folders, user interface, these are all okay. The one thing you can see is shared folders. You can share a folder from your Windows operating system to Ubuntu using this, but since we are just using virtual remote development, we don't need to do this. We will do this over SSH. Click on OK. It saved all the configs. Now we can just hit start. and minimize everything. One other thing that I forgot is, when after installing VirtualBox, we need to install guest editions. So click on new, here tools, preferences, update this. Okay, and go to tools and click on extension pack manager. Click on install, and it is asking for an extension pack file. So I think we should download that manually. Go to your browser and go to the Oracle VirtualBox. Go to the link, click on download, and here under the version number 7.0 there is a file called extension pack. This is needed to give extra features to our virtual machine. Click on this and click all supported platforms. What it is, it's a single file, irrelevant of the platform. After it is downloaded, click on it. It will open directly in VirtualBox. As you can see, VirtualBox, you are about to install a VirtualBox extension pack. What it does is, it gives extra features like, as you can see here, disk encryption, NVM, full encryption, Oracle integration, webcam, all those good features. And it is useful for UI based virtual machines, where you can use the entire virtual machine full screen without any interruptions. Click on install. It's asking to read the license agreement. Read it carefully and go down and click on I agree. Now it will install the extension pack. As you can see, it's done. You only need to install it once when you install the VirtualBox. After that, when you update the VirtualBox, it will ask there is a new version to update, and you can update it right here. That's done. Now, as you can see, our server is running, and you can see a preview here. Minimize that, and you see here it's saying mouse integration. You can read the notifications or close that entirely. What it does is, when you click your mouse, as you can see, my mouse is outside the VM, but when you click inside, it's disappearing. That's what it's saying. When your mouse is inside the virtual machine and you click it, you can't use it outside. You have to click right control button on your keyboard for the mouse to exit it. Since Ubuntu server is a terminal based, you can only use keyboard and arrow keys. I'm hitting English, click on enter, and it's saying installer updater available, and it's saying update to new installer or continue without updating. I will update to new installer, and it is downloading a new update from the internet. As you can see, my download speed here, it downloaded a new installer and restarted the installer, and it's done. It's showing what is the keyboard layout. I'm satisfied with English US. Clicking on done, and it is asking how do you want to install. Choose the base installation like Ubuntu server minimized, search for third-party drivers. What it is, Ubuntu server is basically the default ISO that we downloaded. Ubuntu server minimized is the default server ISO, but it will remove the extra stuff like UI packages or SSH packages also. And third-party drivers are like any extra information or extra as here you can see the real-time kernel or proprietary stuff that we need in our projects. I will just click it and select it by pressing the space button on the keyboard. Use the arrow key and click on done. The reason we need third-party drivers is maybe after a while we might need it, and it will get complicated to install them, so just install it now. Click on done, and it's asking a internet configuration. As you can see, it has selected DHCP4 here. As you can see, it selected DHCP4. That is the network in my own home network, and that is 192.168.0.145. That's an IP in my home network. Currently it's not reachable, but since I selected bridge network in the network properties when creating the VM, it used my router to get that IP. I'm going to click OK, done, and it's asking a proxy to connect to internet. I don't have any proxy. And it's asking the IP where we can download updates from Ubuntu. The default one is good for me. Click on done. It's asking how to use the storage. I don't want to set up this as LVM because that would be a bit complicated, so I'll just select use an entire disk. As you can see, it's showing the 60 gigs, but in reality it will only go like 20 gigs or 10 gigs. That's the usage of VirtualBox. Click on done, and now it is showing all the things that we are doing. It's showing the storage summary, like in the 60 gigs it will use 59.9 gigs for the OS and 1 megabytes for the bootloader. Click on done. As you can see, it's showing that when you click continue, it will destroy everything on the disk. Since it's a new disk and it's a VirtualBox, we don't have to care, but when you're doing it on a physical PC, you need to be careful. Click on continue. Now it is asking for profile configs. Now it is asking for profile configs, basically your name and your server names. So I'll give the name as T, simply a single letter, it doesn't matter. For convenience I'm giving it a T. And server's names, I'm gonna give it T Ubuntu. It's a good name to give it a unique name in your network, so you can access your IP using this single host name. And it's asking a username, I'm gonna give it T. And for password, you need a complicated password and secure password, but for my sake it is a virtual machine and I'm going to delete it after this tutorial or something, so I'm not even that much caring. So I'm going to give it a single digit 1 and 1. But remember, since this is a tutorial, I'm doing it easy way, but when you are in a real system and real user space, you need to give your all details securely so it won't get hacked or deleted without your permissions. Click on done. And it's asking to install OpenSSH. Yes, we do need it, because since we are doing remote development, we need SSH. And click on installation, and it's asking if we have an SSH key. No, we don't have an SSH key, so it will create one for us. Click on done. No applicable third-party drivers are available locally or online. Okay, since we selected the third-party drivers in our VirtualBox, there is no need for any third-party drivers, so I'm going to click on continue. And it is asking any extra packages you need to install right now. We don't need any right now, we can install later after the installation is done. Click on done, and now the installation begins. You can see the logs. I can fast forward it, I think. Yeah, while the update is running, you can check the resources in your task manager. You can see the performance it's using and the VirtualBox. See here, the VirtualBox is using most of the network, and when you click on RAM, you can see the softwares that are using the most RAM. Since it's downloading, you can see it's downloading 7.5 megabytes, and the virtual machine is using 30% of my host resources. Yeah, depending on your network, the downloading of latest packages and updating will take a bit of time. I'm going to fast forward this process. Let's see if I can delete the audio line. Delete instance. I will delete the audio line. Okay guys, now as you can see the installation is done and it's showing reboot now button. So let me click on the reboot now. What it does is it will install all the updates and will reboot our PC, and it's saying failed unmounting CD-ROM, which is our ISO file. Just click on enter, go to the devices option, optical drives, and see if these are ticked. If these are not selected, that means the ISO file is unmounted. Now we can go to the virtual machine and uninstall install the extensions. Sorry about the noise. As you can see, it is done and it's asking for our login details. We can click on that. Wait a bit, it's still setting up. Click on enter. Yeah, the ID is T, password is 1. See, now we are logged into T Ubuntu. Let's just update sudo apt upgrade, sudo apt upgrade -y, sudo apt dist upgrade y, and give the root password 1. Let it download a bit. These are the basic updates and upgrades after installing a new OS. I will give the commands in the description. Click on devices in the meantime and click on install guest additions CD image. What we're basically doing is updating the drivers of this VM if it needs. The extension pack that we downloaded is this CD image. It is available in every VirtualBox, no matter it is a Ubuntu UI based or a Windows 10 or Windows 7. To provide extra configs for this, after using this, we can click on this drag and drop and shared clipboard, and we can copy the clipboard and files easily. That's the sole reason I use the extensions. After the update is done, it's asking to restart any services. You don't need to restart any service, just click on OK, just click enter and it will be done. It is suggesting that use sudo apt auto remove to remove extra unknown packages. Let's do that. Sudo apt auto remove -y, so it won't ask for any prompt, and it's done. Type clear and it will clear it. Since we inserted our guest disk, let's ls/ and you can see there is a media, ls/media. This is the CD-ROM place. Let's click the devices again and it's not selected. Okay guys, I think inserting in a server is different from inserting in a UI based VM. So here is, as you can see in this link, after searching online, click on the first link. It is giving some info. I'm going to copy the commands, but I don't think I can paste them. Yeah, I'm going to manually type them. It's asking to update and install build essentials. I used sudo su to go to root directly, so I will type sudo apt install y build essential linux headers $uname -r. Done. It's downloading stuff, and it's as saying to install guest additions. Click on this. After that is done, I'm clicking on insert guest additions, and it is saying to mount it first. We have to mount it in the server, but we don't have to in the UI. Wait for the update to be done. Yeah, and just click enter. Click on clear. Now let's type sudo mount dev cd-rom media, and it's saying right mounted read only. Okay, let's ls/media. As you can see, now we have mounted the ISO image, but when you click on the devices, it doesn't show any tick mark, so remember that. Now instead in these files, we need to run the command here, sudo. So let's cd that, cd/media. I'm following the guide on my left, and we are in this directory. And now type sudo ./vbox linux additions.run, and that's it. It will download and install the stuffs. It's saying error while loading shared no such file directory libxt0 or something. It won't matter, it will install whatever it can find. If you get any errors like this, just Google them and you can find multiple solutions. Yeah, once the entire update is done, you just reboot the system, and that's it. This is a one-time setup for virtual boxes, and make sure you can SSH into the system while it is turned on. So go to the Windows terminal, open it, and SSH into that, or ping to that. Ping, go to the VM and get the IP of it. The installation is still going on. Yeah, the installation is now done. As you can see, I'm gonna type clear ls. Okay, it's done. Now I'll just install a package called sudo apt install net tools and -y. What this tool does is gives a tool for us called ifconfig. This ifconfig is a easy way to know our network details. As you can see, it's showing that inet is 192.168.0.145. so that's what I'm going to use, ping 192.168.0.145. and as you can see, the ping is successful. Let's do the same with SSH. The username is t@192.168.0.145. when you click it first time, it will ask for fingerprint authentication. Click yes, since it is a trusted VM, and it is asking the password for T. The password is 1. Click enter. Now as you can see, we are in the same folder as this VM, but the terminal of our choice is Windows terminal. We can copy paste stuff instead of using this shell session. Now click on ls media. As you can see, this is the same directory that we are in this VM. So now we just can minimize this and run commands in this terminal. You can use Windows CMD or Windows PowerShell, latest version or old version, doesn't matter. Windows 10 has the latest. After Windows 10, I think 2021, SSH is inbuilt. I'm just using the Windows terminal. which can be downloaded from the Microsoft Store, and using PowerShell in it. Now that we have understood how to configure the Ubuntu server for remote development, let's just reboot this. To reboot it in terminals, you need to put sudo before it and give the password. That's it. As you can see, the connection is lost. We can minimize this, and in the VirtualBox, as you can see here, check this, it's rebooting that. In the meantime, download and install Virtual Studio Code. The sole reason we can do remote development is because of Visual Studio Code. Download the Visual Studio Code and go to the extensions tab. Click on remote SSH extension. This is the extension created by Microsoft, and without this we can't do the remote development. There are multiple remote extensions. Yeah, these are multiple ones, but the only one thing that I use is this one. This is enough for our development. Depending on your situations, you can use multiple ones. After installing that, you will get a new icon called Remote Explorer here. Click on that. As you can see, there is no SSH here, so click on plus. It is a new remote session. What we are doing is, you are just connecting the SSH, you are SSHing into the VM. So just type the full command, that is SSH t@192.168.0.145 that we used here, 145, and click enter. It is asking where to save the config file. Select the first one, and it's saying host added. You can click on open config to see. As you can see, this is my first time connecting to a remote server. It is showing only these details. No worries, just close that and refresh the remote server. As you can see, now it is running. So right click it and connect in new window. What it does is, it will open a new Visual Studio Code session with all your extensions and settings, but you can develop inside the remote VM. Now you can see it is connecting to the remote VM. It is asking what type of VM is this, Linux or Windows. Click on Linux, and it is asking password for the user T. Click on and enter, and that's it. As you can see in the log, installing VS Studio, and now it's done. We can now use the Windows VS Code to work in Linux one. And remember, all the files and stuff that you do are stored inside this VM only. You are just developing in this visually, but entire storage, working, processing are done inside this VirtualBox. So don't shut down this one. Now as you can see, it is logged in, but there is no folders or stuff that is opened in our Visual Studio. So click on open folder. It will load and give by defaultly the user space. What I do is, since I know what I'm doing, go to the root directory and click OK. But for your case, let's say if you are a beginner, just go to the user one and click OK, and it will open a new window with that folder and will ask for the password again. Give it, click enter. As you can see, now the files are being shown, and you can open in Visual Studio Windows without even having to install anything else. Now that we have this, let's test a sample work. Let's create a Angular web page and access it to show that we can use remote development. Angular install. Yeah, in this it's saying we need all this. You see, this is giving npm install at g@angular, right? So let's do that. I'm closing the rest. The only thing that I need are now, as you can see, we have given the Ubuntu server 60 gigabytes. Now it is using 7 gigabytes because of our installations. So first, these are the prerequisites. So I'm going to create a file called guide.md, and I'm going to type here. And remember, whatever you type in, whatever files you create in here are created inside this VirtualBox. So if you delete the VirtualBox, this entire stuff will go away, so be careful. Now we have three indications. The first thing, we need to install Node. Second thing, we need to install Angular. Third thing, we need to open web page, sample Angular page. So let's install Node. To install Node, just go to the browser and set node install Ubuntu and go to the Node.js link, not other DigitalOcean stuff. Go to the Node.js thing and scroll down to select the Ubuntu variant, and as it is showing, Ubuntu based Linux distributions have Node.js distributions. Click on that. It opened a GitHub page. Go down and it is showing available architectures. We need the AMD4 and we need the link to install in the latest one. It's saying installation instructions is Ubuntu Node is the latest version of 19, but we want the LTS version. So scroll a bit down and click and search for LTS. We need the LTS because it is supported for a long time and it's showing for using Ubuntu. So just copy this line and go to the Visual Studio Code, open your done. Oh, okay. Somehow my shortcut to open the terminal and record the video are same, so it's not working. So what I will do is I will use the UI1 to open the terminal. Okay, click on this no problem section and go to the terminal section. You can open the terminal. Now as you can see, we are in the Linux one. Sudo and ls are working. This guide.md file that we created in the UI is represented there. I'm just going to put it in a small section. Now we have three targets, that is we have to install Node, then we have to install Angular, and we have to test Angular sample web page outside the VM. So go to the Google and search node install Ubuntu. Click on the second link like Node.js and it will open the it will give you this website. Go to the Ubuntu based section and click on Node.js binaries. Once it opens that, search for LTS and you can see there are a ton of LTS things. We want Node.js LTS, so once you are in this page, search for Node.js LTS. As you can see, there are only two and we want this one, and it is showing using Ubuntu. So what we can do is just copy this code and paste it in our terminal. Open the vscode and paste it there. As you can see, copying it and pasting it are easy. Now when you click enter, it will download the latest package from Node and it will install Node.js. My recording. Click enter. It is asking for our root password. Click password and press enter. As you can see, the installation is going on. It is downloading. Yep, and as you can see here, the new package will be installed, Node.js. Done. When you install Node.js, you can verify that by this. So I'm gonna paste all these commands below. Verify that by using nodv and npmv. Nodv, the version is 18 as we install, and npmv, which is 8.19. That's more than enough. Now that we have npm and node, we'll just install Angular. Go to the Angular setup and it is saying npm install g angular CLI. So let's paste that. Sometimes when you are using npm with -g, you may get some error saying no permissions have found. What we have to do at that time is add sudo in front of npm. Let's check it. Yeah, that's what I understood. As you can see, it's saying error access permission denied to open in the user lib. So just put sudo in front of this, which will give you the right access to the directory. Now press enter. This time we should not get any error. These are some general warnings, we don't have to worry about it. And as you can see, it is showing 26 packages are installed, and it is giving a command like there is a latest version of npm. We can upgrade that. As you can see in the previous command, it showed that there is a latest version of npm. So let's just click npm and click update, and audited one page. You can click npm and upgrade. npm g upgrade. Okay, sudo npm g upgrade. Okay, let's see the npm version. npm v. Now as you can see, when you type sudo npm upgrade, sudo npm g upgrade, it will download the latest version and it will install that, and it updated the npm version also. But while doing that, it downloaded some package in our local also. We don't need that file, so I'm deleting it. And now that's that. Now yeah, these are the commands. Now that we have upgraded the npm and we have installed the Angular, what we can do is we can create a new folder here. We can create a new folder called Angular test. This is a sample project. We are not actually developing any code right now. We can do it later. Okay, we are developing the entire code later, so we are currently not working on the development, just testing the environment. So Angular test, go to Angular test in your terminal, cd Angular test, go to the Angular documentation, and as you can see, it is showing create a new workspace and initial application. We need to type ng new my app. So that's what I'm going to do. Ng new my app. Let it download, and it is asking some questions. It's asking, would you like to enable auto completion? Just give all y and click enter. That's it. We are not configuring anything for our project right now. We are just checking our entire remote development environment. So if the environment works, that's good enough for us. We can configure the development properties later. Again, maybe you are developing Node application or you are developing a C++ application. It's entirely up to you. I'm just giving a overview on how to set up a VM and work on that remotely. Currently this VM is in my local with this IP. After some time we can advance our working, like taking a Azure VM. We can spin up a Azure VM in Azure portal and use that IP and then develop in our local, so that our entire application is secure in Azure or AWS. The installing is taking a bit long. I'm going to fast forward this, and it's done. It's showing some errors. We don't need to worry about them. Yes, now when you click ls, it is in my app. That's it. We have created the application. Now after setting up the application, it is saying this commands to cd into that environment and run it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cd my app, and it's done. As you can see, it is inside that, and when you click ng serve, it will ask do you want to enable, click just Y. We don't need to do anything, and it's creating some stuff with Angular to create a web page so that we can test and access it over web. Now one thing that we need to remember here is when you click ng serve, it is only accessible in the local host. What Visual Studio does is it will create a port for it. See here, as you can see all forwarded ports. What it is doing is it is using the local host of that VM and linking localhost 4200 of our system. This is not a good practice. This is not what we intended. What we want to access is the VM's IP, that is 192.168. So let me type that and put the port number that we are doing 4200 and access that. See now, it is not accessible because the VM has 4200 port open, but we are not accessing the application in that manner. So go to the terminal, close the serve section and give host 0.0.0.0. Now what we are saying is accept requests from any IP in the world. Now in the previous command, when you typed ng serve, it only accepts requests from this IP. Now with host given 000, it will accept requests from any IP. Now enter it. Now it's giving a warning, giving it is a security concern since we are giving the host flag, but it's the it's what we wanted. It's a development environment, so it's not a big deal. Now again, as you can see, vscode used remote forwarded port and it's linking again. You can test that if you want by going into localhost 4200. You see, you opened the Angular app by opening localhost because of vscode, but we don't want that. We don't want our localhost to be linked anywhere. We just want our remote IP. Now as you can see, once we gave the host 00 to accept request from anywhere on the internet, it is accepting requests from our IP. You can check the same by going into the terminal and opening a new terminal. You can check that by curl localhost 4200 in the VM, and now you can get that output. That's how we can remote development, guys. Now that we have all that, we just edit all the code. We can create a new application, we can write code, we can test the code, we can deploy the code, just like in a production server. Once everything is done, we can just access this, and that's how we can do remote development. Once everything is done, save the files and just close the window, and that's it. But remember, the VM should be running to be able to do that, and once that is done, you can either save the session of the VM to start from here onwards, or just power off the VM and start it up later. And that's the video, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.